He played for the Nordiques, the Rangers, the Sabres, and the Florida Panthers, and he's here with us. Randy, appreciate the time. How you been, my man?
Oh, good. It's a great. It's hot down here in South Florida, but it'll be a great day tomorrow for a hockey game. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think today sucks, honestly, Randy, because last night that was miserable being a Rangers fan. And it's, you know what's crazy with the Panthers? And I have great respect for them. I thought they were the best team entering the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Rangers finally started to get ahead of them in the shot advantage, where at one point I remember looking up after having another whiskey ginger, and it was like 17-12 in favor of the Rangers. And then in a blink of an eye, the Panthers are up in the shot department like 30-18. How much they've possessed the puck throughout this series is just wild to me.
Yeah, that's the team identity for the Florida Panthers. You know, they're known around the league. They're the best forechecking, the most aggressive, physical team in the NHL, and they're proving that. And they've had success playing that way. Where they get themselves into trouble with highly skilled teams like the Rangers is you start trading those odd man rushes back and forth. And we all know the Rangers are so dangerous with their top six forwards, and they can score on the rush, and of course their power play in that. But for the Florida Panthers, I think they've played to the script that they've written up for themselves, and that's been fairly disciplined. Stay out of the penalty box. They know the Rangers can hurt any team on the power play, and then they just go about it. They're just riverboat gamblers in the sense that they will throw three-man in on the forecheck. Their defensemen will pinch down the walls to keep the play alive. They live by that. They die by that. But when it's going well for them, they've got a lot of puck possession, and they get a lot of high quality scoring chances. And I think that's been proven here in this Rangers series so far.
What specifically have you seen them do up against Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad? Because neither through 5 games have a goal in this series.
Well, number one, it's very difficult because those you mentioned those two players, along with Trocheck. I mean, they're top end, highly skilled, intelligent players, and they can do things with the puck that 90% of the NHL players can't. So the number one thing is, Paul Maurice talks about it, and the players talk about it as well, as awareness when they're on the ice, and then. I did an interview a couple of days ago, and they asked me specifically what would be the key for the game that went on last night, and I just say the positioning of the Panthers, and what I mean by that is their position on the right side of the puck. If you're on the right side of the puck, and majority of the time, that's you're standing in between your opponent and your net. And if you're on the right side of that, then it makes it difficult for these highly skilled players like you're talking about, Panarin and Zibanejad, to make those plays and cut to the net. And I think the Panthers have excelled at that, and that has to continue, because if you get on the wrong side of these players, they can burst off the walls and they can cut into the holes and get into shooting positions that you really don't want. And I think that's the reason why they have, for the most part, been successful keeping Zibanejad and Chris Kreider and Panarin, pretty neutral. And yeah, they're going to get their chances. They're so skilled and knowledgeable, and they play off of each other, and that they will get their chances. But it's all about limiting those chances and making sure they're not high danger shooting chances.
Randy Moller here with us, Panthers TV analyst, of course, played in the NHL for a bunch of years. I want to ask you more about Artemi Panarin. We know how great he was in the regular season, and he had a good start to the postseason, too. There's just been times this series, I'm not taking anything away from the Panthers, they're sensational, but even when he's open and he has some space and the puck gets sent his way, that the puck just goes over his stick or he just mishandles it, do you don't think there's something maybe a little bit going on with Panarin where the stage is kind of getting to him a little bit and he's doing some things that are uncharacteristic?
Well, you don't want to criticize a world-class player like that, but the way I'll answer that question is the Panthers did the same thing against Stamkos and Kucherov in round number 1. The same thing with Pastrnak with the Bruins in round number 2. for the most part. Yeah, they did get some points because they are going to get their points, but not allow them to get 7, 8, 9 goals in a 7-game series or whatever. And they were successful at that. The Panthers are a physical team, and every time Panarin is going to touch the puck or Zibanejad, he's going to get bumped. And after a while, it takes a toll, and there might be some fatigue. That plays in a lot of it. The Panthers, not only with the injuries that they had last year in the finals, but it was proven they had nothing left in the tank when they went up in the finals against the Vegas Golden Knights. And these playoffs, you know, people talk about it, and I've played in them as well. It's the toughest trophy, the most physically, mentally demanding trophy to win in all of sports, pro or amateur. It is so difficult to win. And fatigue, there's an old saying, fatigue makes cowards of us all. And that plays into it. And you don't know. You mentioned about Panarin. We don't know if he's 100% or not. Most of these players are playing with bumps and bruises and nicks and that kind of stuff. You just don't know how serious it is. I don't know if Panarin is injured at all, but that could be a reason why he's just not getting that burst of speed and darting into those holes and be as dangerous as we normally expect him to be.
Talking to Randy Moller right now. From the Panthers' perspective, we all remember their story last year. It was a great unexpected run. When they're down 3-1 to the Bruins early on, no one's thinking they're going to even get out of that series, let alone go to the Stanley Cup final. They have gotten even better this year, and we know, like, pound for pound, I told you earlier, I think they're the best team in hockey, and I said that going into the playoffs. What has impressed you the most this year after a big run that they went on last year that the Panthers got even better this year?
Well, it started with the first day of training camp. Leaders like Kachuk, Barkov, Reinhart, Bennett, Ekblad, you go up and down the list. Their only motivation was to get back to the Stanley Cup Finals and win it and win the cup. That was their motivation. It wasn't just to make the playoffs or have a great regular season and that. Everything that they have done, and it goes to the coaching staff and the players themselves because they're the one that have to execute. Everything is to build for the playoffs and to go deep and get back to the finals. That was their only motivation. That's all they talked about. So they've really changed. Like you mentioned, last year was kind of a Cinderella story. They snuck in the back door on the last day of the regular season to even qualify for the playoffs, and then they come with that heroic comeback against the Bruins. This team's a lot different now. They know what it takes. They know that what kind of team they have. They believe in themselves and they believe in the talent. And I think there's a bit of confidence, not arrogance, but confidence that, hey, they know that they're a good team. And if they play the style that they're built and which is very physical and a lot of forcing plays and puck pursuits and that, and then if you get the goaltending like they've received from Sergei Bobrovsky, that they can beat anybody in a 7-game series. And, there's going to be the odd night where all of a sudden things just don't go right and they're out of sync. And we've seen that so far in the playoffs as well. They lost bad a game against Tampa. Same thing against Bruins, 5-1, where they were just completely out of sync. But it seems like they have a short memory and they're able to just, turn it aside, turn the page, prepare the next day, and get right back on the horse, and then go about their business. They're the most resilient team. It goes back to last year, and then all the way through this year. They're the most resilient team I've ever seen. They don't let bad goals, they don't let bad bounces or bad losses really bring them down. They don't get too high, they don't get too low. They're pretty confident with their comments after wins and after losses, and a big reason for that, I think, is the play of Sergei Bobrovsky.
Yeah.
The way that he handles himself and prepares for the games and that. I said it 3 years ago at the Panthers when they won the President's Cup 3 years ago, whatever it was. I said the only way this team will ever get to the Stanley Cup finals is on the back of Sergei Bobrovsky, and they're riding him right now.
Wrap it up with Randy Moller for a few more moments. Moller, let me ask you about Igor Shesterkin. He's been sensational. I think he's the best goalie in the NHL, and he's playing like it right now. I'll ask you this, and I'll give you the fan perspective, right? You have the former player, probably proper analyst hat on. The only way I think the Rangers could win Game 6 is if they just realize they have let down their goaltender and they just go to war for him in a Game 6, and you just see an extra push and a little extra motivation that leads them to victory. So I'll ask you it. How do the Rangers win Game 6 in Florida?
Yeah, well, that's just it. And, I'd be remiss if not to mention that the heroic play of Shesterkin. He is just all world. And this is not a flash in the pan. I mean, the Rangers, if you look back, boy, have they been fortunate with Van Beesbroek and Richter and, of course, the King, Lundqvist, and now Shesterkin. They are in good hands. He is everything that everybody talks about. He's world-class goaltender and he's going to have to have another amazing game. He has been obviously their best player throughout the series for the Rangers. And he's going to have another one because the Panthers, they create so many chances off that pressure that he's going to have to come up with some huge saves like he did last night.
Last thing I'll ask you, Oilers and Stars. We have game number 5 this evening. This series all tied up at 2 apiece. It's been a wild series. It's always wild this time of the year in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We know the Oilers, no pun intended, have these stars in McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. But Dallas, they are just so well-rounded. They have great 4 lines. They have a good mix of youth and some older players. And Pete DeBoer, one of the best coaches out there in the league with how many teams he's been on and how far he's been, even though he hasn't won a Stanley Cup. Do you lean Dallas to win this series, or do you think it's just Connor McDavid's time to get to a Stanley Cup final?
I kind of lean on for the Oilers to win. If they can just the Oilers are kind of to me, they're just a maddening team in that they got so much talent. Of course, you talk about McDavid, the best player in the world, and Draisaitl and Hyman, the way he can pop goals, and they're dangerous on the Bouchard on the power play and that. But boy, oh boy, they just have lapses where they just self-destruct. And I think if they're able to put together a 60-minute game, and with the offense that they have, that they should come away and win this series. I have the utmost respect for the Dallas Stars. They're so deep all the way through 4 lines, 6 defense. But Tanev, if he's unable to play tonight because of that injury and his foot is in a boot because he blocked a shot, that is a serious blow to the Dallas Stars because Tanev has been one of the mainstays in trying to keep McDavid, from scoring 3-4 goals a game, and he's been pretty successful at it. So that's the way I size up this series. If the Oilers can play a more rounded game and just take care of their own end and not make stupid passes and plays that just decimates them, I think it's their time to get into the finals.
He is Randy Moller, TV analyst for the Florida Panthers all throughout the year. Moller, appreciate the time. Have a good weekend.
All right. Thanks for having me on, guys. Talk to you later.